What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Boss Battle. And we don't have a number for the episode today, Robin. So I don't know what episode number we're on. It just says Boss Battle Live. But what's going on, Robin? It's been a minute.
Episode 69. Here we are.
Every episode is 69 from now on. Yeah,
I
exactly.
know. I'm sorry. No, it's great to be back. It's great to be back. I already fired up the game earlier today, bringing back the retro vibe. You know me. I love these boomer type inspirations. And I started playing and I was already hooked. So I was bummed I had to come on the show. So I will be going back into the game to keep playing more. So my initial thoughts are really cool. So really happy for Soul to come join us today, take time, and try to defeat all these three bosses.
Yo, production says this is episode 76. You're not doing a reverse 6-7 right now, Damien, are you?
6-7.
Don't do that to me. Today I was playing basketball, and then we're like, "What's the score?" And we said 6-7, and some random person was like 6-7. I'm like, fuck, this shit will never end, bro. Anyways, how we doing, Soul?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm here live in Kobe, Japan, and excited to talk to y'all about Damn and 6-7 and all that fun stuff.
What time is it in Japan for you right now?
It is 8 a.m.
Oh, okay, morning. I thought it would be like pitch black dark. We got some people here in the chat. Yes, 7-6, Damien. Thank you. This is episode 76. Shout out to JK saying Boss Battle is on fire. Shout out to you. We also have Austin Riggin says hi.
Ryan Anthony says Santa.
Oh, okay. I thought that said Ryan. I thought that said Ryan Anthony or something. I was like, that's an interesting name. But we got some people in the chat. What's going on, guys? We're gonna go over the rules real quick of how this show works. It's been a little while, so a little bit of a refresher for everybody in the audience and our guest today. You have to have an 85 average across all the bosses towards the end of each round on Twitch. The audience will be voting A, B, C, or D, A being the best, D being the worst, to determine the score of the guest. And there will be a Slurpee voltage round, which is going to be like a cooldown period in between boss 2 and 3, which are going to be some quick, hard-hitting answers. It's not going to be like, you don't have to give us your spiel, just a quick rapid-fire cooldown period from the first two bosses. Because, as each boss goes on, the difficulty will increase. So, Soul, you ready to play some boss battle?
Oh, I'm ready. My phone alarm is going off, but I don't know where that's coming from. But okay, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Chat, for to be in the Christmas spirit, we got our Christmas themed bosses coming back from last year. So there you go. Question number 1 says, Damn is a spiritual successor to Zombies Ate My Neighbors, a beloved classic that Disney owns now. What inspired you to create unofficial spiritual sequel rather than pursue your own IP?
Yeah, actually, sorry, just give me 1 second. I have no idea where this alarm is going off from, and I hope it's not. Can you guys hear that? Is it okay?
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, okay. I don't. Is it like a smoke alarm? Like, is it a beep?
No. It's I think it's Shorty's phone. Anyways, okay.
No, we're good. We're good.
All right,
we can't hear it, so yeah, we're good.
All right. Can you give me the question one more time?
Yeah, no worries. Damn is a spiritual successor to Zombies Ate My Neighbors, a beloved classic that Disney now owns. What inspired you guys to create an unofficial spiritual sequel rather than pursue your own original IP?
For sure. Yeah. So, the first game I ever made it was actually really successful, was a game called Read Only Memories. It was a spiritual successor to my favorite game growing up, which was called Snatcher. So, most people are familiar with Hideo Kojima, made Metal Gear Solid and whatever, but they're not really familiar with his earlier work. And one of the first games that he made was a game called Snatcher, which was, to me, was way ahead of its time. And it explored a lot of themes and stuff that like games from the late 80s, early 90s never a chance to explore. And also it was kind of a visual novel. And so for my first game, I wanted to do something that explored things that never got explored, as well as take advantage of the fact that I didn't really have a lot of experience making games. So we made this spiritual successor to Snatcher. And it went really well. And so, I think that one of the reasons why I wanted to recreate Zombies Ate My Neighbors was another game that from my childhood that really inspired me. And I didn't really see a lot of people making games in that vein. And also around the time that, we started working on it, I became the executive producer on the newest Toe Jam and Earl game. So if you guys are familiar with Toe Jam and Earl from the Genesis days, I had the chance to be the executive producer, actually, along with Macaulay Culkin, on the newest game. And it was really exciting to be able to work with the original creator from the early 90s. I remember going to Disney Epcot Center and playing the game and being like, what the hell is this? When I was like 5 or 6. And so it was so cool to be able to work on that. And I was like, okay, cool. Now I have experience with building a roguelike game with, these classic creators. And I have experience with, taking older concepts and bringing them forward. And so I was like, okay, if I can combine these two things, I can create something really cool. And I think just in general, I'm a huge fan of games like Binding of Isaac, where there's tons of depth and it's really fun roguelike, but the vibe is kind of like Newgrounds, very kind of like a little kind of edgy early 2000s humor. And I wanted to make something that might be a little bit more modern and kind of fun and maybe not as like gross out humor.
No, for sure. That's an interesting one to call out. Newgrounds. I've completely forgot that existed. I was on that website many times. I think the thing that I watched a lot was like Perfect Kirby or something. It's like Perfect Dark and Kirby mixed together. So it's really cool to hear that. Robin, I saw you, your face light up when he said, what was the game you mentioned?
Toe Jam and Earl. Can I share a memory about that game? Listen, I was born in 81. Everybody knows I'm kind of boomer for the industry, but I was so happy. Not only did I get to play Toe Jam and Earl, but one of my requests that I wanted for Christmas as a kid, and I remember this vividly, is I said, I want the Sega Menacer because I need to play Ready, Aim, Tomatoes. If you also remember that game, and I was ecstatic when I got that as a kid. It was such a great thing. Another game that I think was like graphically ahead of its time. And of course, you mentioned Snatcher also during the era. Sega CD, Konami greatness happened during that era. So you have good taste in games. It's cool that you're part of that experience. So that was it. Yes, Ready, Aim, Tomatoes. Let's go.
Yeah, actually, Jake Kett, who's joining us, is probably the #1 Toe Jam and Earl fan in the world. So thanks for joining us, Jake. Yeah, actually, it was so cool, getting a chance to, so when I came onto the project, basically for Toe Jam and Earl, Adult Swim was basically going under, the Adult Swim gaming label. And so I was coming in to help them take over the project from them. And one of the things that we were doing was hey, we wanted to get Macaulay to be involved in the project. And he had posted a while back that he was skipping the Oscars to play his favorite game from growing up, which was Toe Jam and Earl. And so I wanted to get the place, ready for him. And so, we went out and I kind of just got the place really, reset. And one of those things was getting the Menacer and getting Ready to Aim Tomatoes. And that was a game that I just never had a chance to play as a kid. And so, I think that was super ahead of its time. It was also just really cool exploring a lot of the old Sega Channel prototype stuff and seeing a lot of Toe Jam and Earl inspired graphics and things. And so, it's been fascinating sitting under the learning tree of the original creator and seeing how much history went into Toe Jam and Earl and early Sega stuff, and just reviewing the old contracts from 1993 and seeing how Sega and video games were made and understanding and seeing how much that's changed in the last 30 years. So it's been a fascinating experience.
All right. Let's move on to our next question here. It says, you're part of the original team that had to reacquire the damn IP after going through legal issues and COVID-19 nearly destroying the project. Walk us through that journey. What made you fight to bring this back?
Sure. Yeah. So I can't go into all the details, but basically, originally we were building this project with as Human Nature Studios, and we built out a team. And we ended up, basically launching a Kickstarter for it. And for a variety of reasons, the Kickstarter didn't work because we asked for, I think, more money than was traditionally you would look for a campaign like this. And we really just didn't have the pieces well laid out. And then, one of the things that in the past, when I've made games that I have seen that both have gotten me into trouble and I've seen other people get into trouble for, is trying to build a game on hope, right? Where you go we don't have the money, but we're just going to keep working on this and try to figure out, eventually we'll get money, or eventually we'll be able to piece it together. And I realized that that's a good way of getting people to be really unhappy. And also it's just not sustainable. And so when the Kickstarter didn't go off, part of the team wanted to keep working on the project and keep it moving forward. And, for me, I was like, well, if we don't have the money, I can't authorize that work. I don't want to see, work happen if you can't get paid. It creates a lot of issues. And so some of the team kind of kept on working on the game while I worked on other projects. And, in the back of my mind, I was like, I really want to see this thing happen. And I want to figure out a way to make this thing move forward. So in the past, few years, as I've been able to acquire funding, and that's how we created Damnation, the mobile game, that was when I was like, okay, I still believe in the project. I still believe in what we built and the world. And so that's why I decided, okay, I want to push forward and reacquire. And well, it wasn't really reacquire, but I wanted to make this thing happen. I didn't want to start from scratch, because, I think that there was a lot of love and thought that had been put into the vibe in the world of Dam. And, I think that, like, for a lot of people who early on got interested in Dam, we originally, positioned this as a PC and Switch game. And so they see now, okay, we've released a mobile game, and they're a little confused because they go, okay, well, I wanted the original version. And that's more, I think, along the lines of Zombies Ate My Neighbors, where this mobile game is a little bit different. It's made for mobile audiences. And, part of that is also the realities of the business, right? Where we were able to get funding from a publisher to help us to create this mobile version. And in our mind, that's, kind of the first step in getting this IP back into play, so we can actually create the true kind of gamer version of it. But yeah, the unfortunate reality, right, is that traditional games are a lot harder to get publishing money for now, because there's so many games on Steam. There's so many things that get released that it's very hard to tell a publisher, oh, we have this cool idea, and they just go, here's some money. And so, we were able to get that money for the mobile version. And thankfully, now that it's out and we have some momentum, that's now allowed us to continue to push forward to create the traditional gamer version of the game. And yeah, I mean, for me, I've always found that, like, it's a balance. Being a game publisher and producer is a balance where you need to figure out where is the actual money coming from, so you can pay people and keep things going. And that doesn't always align with, like, making the very best game possible. And I think that we've found that nice balance by creating this mobile game that has a lot of those inspirations and has kind of a lot of that core gameplay, but is a single player experience. We're getting that community reignited. And, my hope is that we're going to still be able to bring that traditional vision forward, because I know that for me and for a lot of people who have been excited about our project, they want to see the true Zombies Ate My Neighbors experience brought forward. And because it is a mobile game and it's single player, it has some of those elements, but it's not the full thing. And so that's why I've kept on fighting for it, is that I have, we have 20,000 or so 15,000 wish lists on Steam for the PC version of it. And we get people all the time that are like, the mobile version is cool, whatever. We want the real version. And those messages actually keep me very inspired, because the fact, if people didn't ask for it, I always would have given up. But people bother me all the time about it, and I go, yeah, I want it too. So that keeps me moving forward. I'm like, okay, like, how can I keep the balls rolling, and what are the things that I have to do to keep the studio moving forward towards that goal?
No, I love that. You're talking about the passion project that you're building, but also, like, the reality and the challenges of building a business in the gaming industry today, especially with, like, dare I say, a little bit of market saturation, where everything kind of looks like it's trying to be Fortnite or be the best Fortnite or be a different Fortnite or something, like, because, like, Fortnite has been out for such a long time, and it's just kind of crazy how everyone is trying to build their own version of Fortnite, so to speak.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, but I think that, it's interesting because, at the end of the day, right, we live in a capitalist world where we don't know, no one's just giving money out from the sky to say, hey, just make your dream project. And so a lot of what we have to do is figure out, how do we combine our dreams with the reality? So, one of the games I most recently did was a project that Meta paid for 85% of it, which was a game I made called Exercise Your Demons. And it's like a mixed reality combat fitness game. And I got to put in a lot of the things I really wanted to put into it. But at the end of the day, they were like, we need a game that uses mixed reality and has some sort of fitness element to it. And I go, okay, well, those are the constraints, and that's the constraints to get paid. And then everything else I can be creative about. And, like, sometimes that's not ideal, right? Like, if I had $1 billion, I wouldn't necessarily make a fitness game in VR. but it also gives me as an artist, like those are some good constraints to go, okay, what kind of fun stuff can I do with those constraints?
Yeah, that's also another good point. It's like, well, I mean, if you take money in, the original vision of what you're trying to build might fade away a little bit because then you're on someone else's deadline, other person's time, other person's vision because they're paying for it in a way. So yeah, it can definitely impact the game. Jake said Fortnite. Yeah. It was just an example, okay? Listen, Fortnite's a great game, but I've had my time with it. These are the mentalities that are successful in the space. Absolutely agree with that.
Thanks, Cloud.
Thanks to shout outs to Clouds, CEO of Catalyst. We move on to our next question. By the way, the poll is live, guys, so please vote. If you don't see it, you might be on mobile, you can't see it. Try rebooting, maybe. I'm not sure why it's not working. It should be there on the Twitch chat. Let's move on to the next question here. Second to last question. It says the game has a 90s teen horror vibe mixed with Saturday morning cartoon energy and holy water squirt guns called splashes.
Super splashes. Yeah.
Super splashes. Gotcha. How did you land on this specific tone?
Yeah. Well, a lot of that tone comes from Zombies Ate My Neighbors, you know, where, you know, basically, you know, when we made our pitch decks originally for Damn, and actually, you know, one of the original inspirations for making Damn was the launch of the PlayStation 5. So, you know, I am good friends with some people who work at PlayStation, and as I got information about, hey, this is what the PlayStation is going to look like, you know, they were really being like, we're looking for games that are going to use the adaptive haptic triggers, where, you know, it uses pressure depending on how much, you know, what for the trigger. And so I was like, oh, well, if we make a game with a water gun, then depending on how much you pump with the left one, like it will get more, there's like more tension on the left, and then you hit the right, and then like it like releases the tension as you shoot it out. So that was sort of why we made the game around that idea of like pump and shoot, which didn't really work because people, when you're playing like a roguelike, don't want to have to keep on like pump, you know, it's like too much. People are gonna, you know, it would, yeah. So, so that was one of the first inspirations of like, okay, we want to make a game that has that kind of element to it. And, you know, thinking about, and as we made the pitch deck, basically we had 3 tenets of the game, which was Zombies Ate My Neighbors, Binding of Isaac, and Toe Jam and Earl, where, you know, Binding of Isaac to me is the ultimate roguelike game. It has the most replayability. It's so tight. Just like everything is just thought through really, really well from a gameplay perspective. But the aesthetics of it, to me, are not attractive. And then you have Zombies Ate My Neighbors, where the aesthetics are awesome and it's super fun, but it's like super imbalanced, and it's super just like, it's clearly like, you know, it's just an early 90s game where it's made, it's very arcadey, and it's kind of unfair. And so, but I just love the idea of like using household items, and you're like going around the mall or houses, and you're like finding forks and throwing those things, and, you know, and those different items can affect monsters a different way. Like, so when we started making the first prototype of Damn, you could get like a pizza that has garlic on it, and that would, you know, kill vampire bats faster, you know, and things like that. And I just thought that's so interesting and such a fun vibe. And, you know, growing up, whether it be stuff like Lost Boys or Monster Squad or all these different kind of like, you know, Goonies, stuff like that, like just love the idea of like kind of just that vibe of like, just, I don't know, just kids versus the world. And, you know, there's something just magical about that. And then on the Toe Jam and Earl side, you know, Toe Jam and Earl is not the most balanced game either, but to me is like the most fun, just like hanging out with your friend game. You know, like Greg might not like this, one of the creators, but like to me, Toe Jam and Earl is kind of like the stoner buddy game, right? Where like there's a point to it. You're going around collecting ship parts and stuff, but you kind of are just like fucking around and having fun. You know, like you're just like opening presents and messing with your friend and doing all these fun things. And it's so just like silly and fun. And, you know, you can also like, yeah, like do high fives and share life. And so I was like, okay, if I can take the vibes of Zombies Ate My Neighbors with the gameplay of Binding of Isaac, with the co-op fun and silliness of Toe Jam and Earl, I think that that's how you get like the ultimate game. And so, yeah. So, but in terms of the specific question about the aesthetics, it was just about like, I really wanted to make something that's like fun, evergreen, Like, I think we all can kind of relate to the idea of like hanging out with your buds in a treehouse and being like, let's just have fun and be silly and fight evil kind of vibe.
I found it interesting when you said the stoner thing, because it makes sense now that you say that. Like I can see that for sure. I can see that for sure. And it looks like some people are agreeing in the audience. Jake with a laugh emoji, and Damien said 100%. So it seems like people are in the same wavelength as you. We got one last question on the first boss. And it says, characters April and Joey fight demons with infinite timelines, meaning death isn't permanent. How does this roguelite mechanic fit into the story?
Yeah. So it's interesting because, there's only this, I don't want to totally give it all away, but basically, when you have a roguelike game, right, you play through a story, and then you play through the thing, and then you either like win or you die, and then you go back to the beginning. And usually as you keep playing through it, you're unlocking new upgrades or unlocking new parts of the map or things like that. And so in canon, it can be a little difficult to make that make sense, right? So with a game like Hades, where you're like, in hell or whatever, when you die and you go back to being respawned, it makes sense. And so one of the things we want to do with this game is like, okay, like, well, how does that make sense if you're kids and you go and you're defeated? It could be that you just get knocked out, but we wanted to try, and maybe this is the storyteller in me, I didn't want it to just be, there's just some random zombies coming around. I wanted to really write a story about like, so basically the group that they're a part of is called The Watch. There's actually more kids than just April and Joey, but they're kind of the two that we started off with. But we actually have there's 8 total that we've created, and basically we have this whole timeline of like going back to the 1800s of basically these different groups of people, these community groups that basically fight evil and then lock it up into different types of media, whether they lock it away into a book or into a film or a CD. And basically part of the whole idea is that in the early 90s, as the internet starts to come into play, that this evil is trying to get out once again. And like, if it gets out, it's going to spread across the world. And, so what we wanted to try to do with the story is explain, as you play through the game, you understand who unlocked this evil, what it's creating, and you have to try to find the path of how to either lock that evil away or fully disperse it. And yeah, so that's sort of like, basically there's a character or a force in it that has the ability to kind of control time a little bit, or like rewind and be like, okay, well, we didn't get the right solution, so we can bring back time, and then let's find the right path. So how that's actually going to be told in the full experience is going to be an interesting experience on how to tell that story wise. But yeah, that the reason why we did that is to kind of explain in canon when you die, why you're able to keep coming back, and why the things that you learn and explore, and be like, okay, this is how you get to the 4th level. You have to defeat this boss using this item to one of the things I really like about Binding of Isaac is like, when you play the game, you only get 4 levels in, you defeat mom, and then you beat the game. And then once you defeat mom a certain amount of times, then you get to the mom's heart, and then you beat mom's heart a couple times, then you can get this thing, lets you go to the hell or the heaven thing or this, and then eventually and it just keeps on expanding. You get more items and more levels, and it's like evergreen. And one of the things with Damn that I want is like, I want this game to be alive for 10 years, 15 years. I want to keep adding to it and changing it, and if the gameplay is good enough and adaptive enough, there should be no reason why we can't keep on adding levels and different things. And so we wanted a framework for the story that would make sense for that.
All right, that's pretty long laundry list of things there. There were some things you mentioned that I want to comment on, but I forgot it. My brain is not working today. God damn it. All right. Well, that's going to do it for the first boss. We're going to go to our special announcement. I'm going to pass the mic to Ramen after that, and he'll take the next boss. Ramen, the mic is yours, buddy.
All right, you already know what it is. It's my favorite time of the show because you saw that big, beautiful badge that's over there. That is my favorite price, free 99. Make sure that you collect this badge. Is going to be available there in the comments and inside of our post over on X. And the reason why you got to collect these, listen, it's simple, folks. These are going to have some utility later on inside of the Catalyst ecosystem. So you just kind of want to collect them all without being too cheesy, but you get the whole idea. So make sure you go and you grab that
Pokemon reference.
No.
Yeah, you did. You said gotta catch them all. Stop it.
But I want to retweet this. How can I find this right now on X? Where would I search for this?
Oh, production, could you please share the link in the private chat so our guests can share that?
Production.
Or I'll do it. Let's see who can do it faster. Oh, I'm fucking up.
Whoa, these are really pretty digital collectibles. I like these.
I lost. Damien won.
Oh, production beat you? No way. Damien's quick these days.
I misclicked. I accidentally hit, what did I hit over here? I hit forward instead of copy link. Rookie mistake.
Did you know that I've been playing this game while we've been here on the show? Because it's literally one-handed. This is awesome.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I like the surrounding M80 shot. It gets me out of trouble.
I don't think I'm ever going to hear the end of this. He said, "Mwahaha" in chat.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, "Hey, what's up, Slowpoke?"
Oh no, he's getting here. What a great time though. Zombies Ate My Neighbors again. That's when we had like Splatterhouse going on, Castlevania Bloodlines. We had Haunting. I mean, there was so much that was in that genre that seemed to be doing real. Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's like a huge like IP incorporation. I mean, 7-Up, the Dot had its own game on Genesis. It was such a time to be alive. Sorry, I promised I would stop reminiscing about the great gaming of the 90s, but
good times.
Here I am. Toxic
Crusaders.
I mean,
dude, this is what this is why I'm doing this, man. Is like I think that the next generation of games is a little bit different, and so I like living in the 90s a little bit. So I'm glad that we can talk about the 90s.
And there's plenty of people that want to play those type of games too, because they're gonna be like, if everything's too real or too apocalyptic, or like how many games is like the end of the world? Like every game is like you gotta save the world. It's the end of the world. It's just like this 3D, like basically a movie experience. And but we don't really have. I mean, we do have a lot of indie titles, don't get me wrong, but like the main focus is on these like 3D worlds that are crafted. So to see like this retro type of resurgence, if you will, it's really nice to see, because I do like those type of games, especially because of like the art styles that they portray. So
thanks.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think that one of the things I was also gonna just say is like one of the things that we see in like whether it be like Web3 or AI games or things like that can be a little difficult, I think, for the general public or people who don't understand games to understand, is like part of the reason why all this stuff is vaporware that you see is that like it's really easy. Like I could go into Unreal 6 and throw a couple models in and like turn all the settings up to super high, and you'd be like, wow, this game looks like the best game ever. But that you'll never be able to ship that. That doesn't actually make a game. And so a game like Damnation or using something with 2D sprites, a lot of ways is actually harder, because you actually have to like piece together the infrastructure, and it doesn't necessarily look that like expensive, right? But like if you look at a game like Street Fighter 3 with how much money they spend on all the different animations and pixels and getting it all perfect, it's in some ways that's more expensive than like creating a model in Unreal and then rigging it. And it just seems odd because depending on how you're looking at it, if the untrained eye, you might go, oh well, that looks so beautiful, when there's actually a lot that goes into especially making like a 2D game work.
Yeah, 100%. And it really is loop too. It doesn't even have to. Honestly, I really at this point don't even care about graphics. If it loops, it loops, right? Like there's a reason why there's a reason why people play banana clicking games. It's just absolutely bonkers, And especially with these like 2D titles, I know another one that you'll remember, if you don't remember, a Decap Attack, Chuck D Head, another amazing, I think, graphical masterpiece for the time. and another 2D side scroller. But listen, I don't want to talk about the 90s all day long. We'll be here forever. But we hope you get ready for boss number 2, which is going to be coming up. So the questions are going to be a little bit harder. And
all right, let's do it. Bring it on.
Ready to slay. It is my favorite part. All right, here we go. Boss. Your timing is impeccable. Otto, thank you.
I got you.
I look like 3 bosses though. There's like a big boss and two minions.
Oh yeah, we got a lightning round and a boss coming up. So we gotta stay strapped in, folks. All right. Question number 1, boss number 2. You've been transparent that the original source code was lost and Damnation is funding development of the main game. How much revenue does the mobile game need to generate for the PC version to reach completion?
Yeah. Well, it's not so much that the source code is lost. It's just that like based on how we did the kind of split or like the legal kind of just like, oh, hey, here's how we're all going to move forward. We decided that we had to kind of like, and it's not just because of the legal, it's also because when you make a game like this, if you have one engineers that are working on one version of the game and then you bring in new engineers, if they're not like kind of seeing eye to eye, it's almost better just to like start fresh because you're building on top of like unstable code or like it's not super foundational. But the what's interesting about Dam is just because it's been around for so long, we've been building so many different versions. We have like 3 or 4 different versions of the game with different code bases. And so to recreate it is actually relatively easy because a lot of that is like understanding, okay, this is how this thing works, or this is how these enemies should work, or if we're gonna build it where the characters have a rotating torso and a head, how do you make it so that way, like if they're moving backwards but shooting forwards, how do you make it so that way like things look proper? So the good news is like a lot of that work isn't really lost. It's just like it's not going to just be copied over 1-to-1. In terms of the money that needs to be made, it's not really about, I mean, obviously if the game on mobile was a runaway hit, then obviously that would make putting the PC version forward a lot easier. But in my mind, the game doesn't have to make any money. I'm going to make the PC version one way or the other. It's just more of a like, the more that momentum we can get, the more money we can get, obviously, the more resources we can put back into building the PC version, or being able to go to a publisher and say, hey, look at the success that we've had on mobile. Like there's clearly an audience here. The good and the bad about, releasing a game on mobile and the way that we did it is because a majority of the money, funded the game development. We don't have a ton of like, oh, we have to recoup so much money or we're going to be broke. So that's the good thing, the good news. The bad news is that, in building a game for mobile is one of the hardest places to get an audience. User acquisition is super expensive. It's really hard to get placement on like Google Play or iOS store for visibility. So a lot of what we have to do is to, reach out to our audience or find communities that are interested in what we built. And, I think that part of the issue is that because our vibe and the community that we are targeting is 90s, old school Sega Genesis, kind of like traditional gamers, a lot of those people are not big fans of mobile games in general, or they don't really want to play games on their phone. And so, in some ways, we don't want to apologize for what we made, and we're proud of what we made, but we also have to be like, hey, this is just a preview of what we're going to be making. And, in a lot of ways, like we're using this as a test bed to say, okay, here's these 100 items or so, here's how they work, is the balancing good, So that way, when we make the PC version, like we now have all this experience with building the PC game and how the characters move and the co-op. Now we built this mobile game and we understand how the items work, and obviously we built in all these different kind of in-app purchase, different kind of mechanics. So we've kind of got that experience. And so in a way, it's like if we didn't build the full PC version and console version, it would be a waste of all that experience and time. So yeah, I would say that like as of right now, the mobile version hasn't really made a lot of money, and it doesn't really need to make a lot of money. Like, I'd love it if we could get more people involved and get the word out. But it is difficult when you're competing against these mobile slop games or Candy Crush, and they're paying crazy money for user acquisition, where we have to really kind of just go and be grassroots and hit the pavement, find Reddit groups, find people, and again, like, they're really looking for that traditional game. So we have to kind of like preface it. We're saying like, hey, check this out. This is just a vibe check, and if you're digging it, wish lists on Steam, join our Discord, get excited. So yeah.
Absolutely love it. And you know what? Just because I'm gonna pay the $4 to remove the ads because I just want to play the game. So
thanks, man.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully that helps somehow in some way. So I enjoy it so far. But you got me when you said 90s gaming, so you already won my heart there.
Yeah. Well, also, we're doing some interesting stuff that isn't like as upfront. So one of the things that we're doing, and this hasn't been like locked in, but like I don't know if you guys are familiar with Moonbeam, but they're like a Web3 platform, and they're going to be helping us power the leaderboard system that we're going to be building in. So that way, basically, they have like a system where people are going to be able to play our game, and then because the scores are going to be logged on an immutable chain, they use that to be like, okay, here's who won these prizes, things like that. So, and we're going to be getting some funding money from them, as well as like players will be able to just play the game, and there's no, you have to buy some token or get, download some wallet or anything, but it's just like a way where it's like anyone who's a part of that other system could play our game, and then they can be like, oh, here's my scores, and they can get stuff. So, a part of what we're also using Damnation for is also a test bed to try out these other kind of things as well.
I feel like you got our question sheet, because that actually leads right into question number 2 for boss number 2. So I might as well spout this one out. He literally, he pretty much answered it, but the question is, Damnation uses blockchain technology for transparent leaderboards. Why add blockchain to a mobile game, and has the Web3 element helped or hurt player adoption? So you basically hit it right there. But if you want to expand a little bit more on that, that'd be great, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a part of how we got the funding, for Damnation originally was that it was going to be a part of this layer 2 blockchain thing that didn't end up happening, but we built the game around being able to support this technology. And, to me, I've always been a proponent of blockchain, but not in the sense of, oh, you should buy these NFTs and you're going to make a bunch of money or whatever. Like, I think the speculative version of it, to me, is actually kind of there's a reason why most gamers say like, oh, this sucks, or they don't want to be a part of Web3 gaming, because it feels like a casino, or it feels like, oh, I'm coming in and making money is like the goal. And I think that for a lot of gamers, they don't want to be, people obviously want to make money, but when people play a game, they want to just play a game. They want to have fun. They're not trying to make money. And so, one of the things that I actually raised, I raised $3 million for back in 2021 was a platform called Soulbound. And the whole idea behind the Soulbound platform was that you get gaming achievements, and they're soulbound to you. You can't buy or sell them. They're just, here's your gaming achievement passport. And, I think that for a lot of gamers, they didn't really understand why that would matter, or why it's important to not have centralized control over your gaming history. And I think that even now, as I try to explain it to people, they're like, that doesn't seem like that matters. And in my mind, I think it's like, that will matter eventually, when your gaming history, the things that you do online, especially in the world of AI, where you need to be able to prove you actually did something, is going to be really important, and be able to say, hey, look, I did this thing at this time and I can prove it. Here's this immutable ledger that shows I did this thing. So in my mind, I always got really excited about like, what could we do? And actually, and this is also part of the reason why me and the original Dam team kind of went slightly different directions, is like, I think that for a lot of traditional gamers, they go like, anything blockchain, anything like that, like, that's bad. I don't want anything to do with it. People are going to turn on us. And to me, I go like, this is an interesting challenge. This is interesting of like, how can we actually use this in a way to make the game better? So, part of the thing that I wanted to do, and we are going to be doing, is, we're also not on top of doing this leaderboard system. we also are going to be launching a token with on indie.fun for the game. And we're not the token is not going to be used at all in the actual games, right? Because one, you can't do that on Android and iOS, and also that's going to be a big turnoff for people. But it allows us to have like a back end system where people can use that to have community governance over what they see next, or to be able to affect the world basically as like in my mind, DAM is like an octopus, right? Where we have the core IP, and then you have Damnation, you have Damn Demons Ate My Neighbors for the PC. We're going to have other transmedia type stuff. And then basically you have this kind of core where people who are part of the token, there's basically we're creating this internet capital market where people who are part of that token are going to have kind of basically influence and share in the success or failures of the larger pieces of it. And I think that that's a different market than the people who are going to be playing the games. Like, I think the people who are going to be playing the games do not want to be buying NFTs, do not care about making money. They're trying to play a fun game, and like they don't even want to think about that stuff, right? But it allows us to create these new systems to make the economy kind of keep running. I think that as we've seen games go from these traditional models of, oh, we're going to put a game into KB Toys, then to being like, okay, now we're going to put our games on Steam, to then Game Pass, to we're going to have a Patreon type thing, or Star Citizen, we're going to raise money, and then we're going to kind of lead people along for years and years and years because we keep getting our monthly payments, to what we're doing. I think we're going to do with Indie.Fun, where we're creating this kind of ecosystem around the IP where people who want to be involved in the investment and planning side of it can be involved in it. And they can also see transparently where their money is going, how much money is coming in, what the steps are. And that can be that part of it. But the general consumer side is just playing the game and having fun and seeing it continue to evolve and grow. To me, that's really exciting because it's like really tapped ground. And I think the people who have tried doing stuff like this so far have all been basically like fraudsters who don't really care about making a real game. They just want to try to make some quick money and then get out of here. And so I'm so excited about like actually having a real product and a real desire to figure this out, as well as like I've already, I don't know, the top of the mountain, but I've already blown through millions of bucks on different things. Money doesn't excite me anymore. Like, I want to do something that's going to really be like, wow, like what a crazy idea. And like, what a, so exciting to try these new technologies and see how we can piece it all together in these interesting ways.
I love that idea. I just want to add real quick. I love that idea. I think it's a great idea. And I think that hopefully you guys can create an industry standard of QA, because in this space, there are so many games that are just lacking in like quality assurance. Like they tell you how to do something, you do it, and it doesn't work. And it's like, this should be hashed out before any KOL or any player touches it. Because if you're trying to run a tournament or some sort of event, and the instructions that you went over with your team don't line up with what the experience is, a lot of people are going to be turned off by that, and they're going to remember that as their experience with the game in the Web3 industry. So yeah, I do hope that like the next, in my opinion, this is my just my gamer take, the next step for this industry is quality assurance, because a lot of these games were pushed out without any sort of QA testing, and a lot of the pain points have pushed gamers away. And gamers are very, very fickle when it comes to like getting onboarded into the game. Even if there's a long tutorial for a game, some gamers may not play that, right? An in-game thing could turn people off for a game. So I hope that that's something that you guys make like initiative or bring upon.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think that one of the things that people in Web3 or just new tech, anything, they don't realize is like making games is a really complicated thing. And the way that I try to explain it to people is like, and this is no shame on people who make music or movies or write a book. But at the end of the day, if you run out of money writing a book or you're making an album, you can just be like, all right, we're just going to ship it as it is, right? And it works. The song plays from start to finish. But if you make a game and it's like, oh, well, we added in this one feature and now you can't get to the end of the game, or the saves don't work, or this boss is like unbeatable, or this thing now crashes at this thing. You literally can't ship it, and you have to keep spending money until you can fix those things. And sometimes in doing that, then you find, oh, there's this new issue. So going back to Toe Jam and Earl, we were about to ship the game. We made the version for it. We made it on PC. Everything seemed fine. And sometimes we'd play it and it'd be like, okay, after like a day or two, like if you run it for a day or two, the game would crash. It's like, that doesn't seem so bad. Who's going to play this game for like 48 hours straight? Then we put it on Switch and it's like after 45 minutes, the game crashes. And it's like, okay, that's not going to pass. And then we go, okay, what's the issue? Oh, there's a memory leak. And we have to figure out what's this memory leak. We have to go and we spend days and days trying to figure out what is causing this memory leak. And it turns out that there's this, there's this mini map and there's this carrot man, wise man that like gives you levels. And he like, when he walks around, you can see his progress, but it was never clearing the data. Like, right. So the more that he would walk around, it would just keep on collecting data until it like crashed the game. And in fixing that, it broke other things. Right. And so, but yeah, so a lot of people, they don't realize though, if you're making a game, you need to have time set aside for QA. You need to have budget set aside for like, what if that QA finds issues that are like, oh, there's termites under the fucking, ground, and we need to clear rid of all those termites. That's gonna be another 10 grand. And so I think that, yeah, for a lot of people, they really underestimate QA. They underestimate the process of it. They just think, okay, I have this idea, I'm going to make it and just plop it out. And not understanding all the technical issues and requirements of making a game. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's why I'd like to see more people in the games industry get involved in these spaces, because I think that the more non-game people that get involved in it, we're going to continue to see stuff where they get overconfident, or they don't understand the limitations or things that they have to think about when they make the product.
For sure. Sorry, back over to you, Ramen.
I don't even know where I'm at anymore. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just kind of wanted to touch on what you were saying. I think, the original reason, especially like at Catalyst, the reasons that you mentioned of, integrating blockchain tech in the game, I think that was the original like ethos and mission, right? Was the whole, player ownership thing. Stop getting the cycle of, studios and producers are the only ones winning. There is no app, there's no extract for the player, right? It was a cyclical and always went back to, whoever made the game. But what you were talking about, I think, is going to be huge. I know that there's, with the anti-cheats and things of that for like tournament stuff, AnyBrain is making some pretty like sophisticated technology to help with anti-cheats, and having an immutable record, I think, is great. So I think if I got this right, you incorporating blockchain is more just having like an immutable record of participation, so you can identify who some of your like power users are through certain achievements or whatever it may be, and just kind of solidifying that so they can't cheat, which will actually help out the rest of the player base, because they know that you're, active against people trying to manipulate the system. So the grift, I think, just came along just like any of the industries, whether it was mortgage industry, the .com, industry, whatever it is. There's always going to be those players in there that go, well, this could possibly net me a large amount of money over time. But we all know in a space with no product that you are the product, right? So I think the grind is kind of up, right? We've been hearing the same song since 2017, 2018 with the start of a lot of these games that entered the Web3 space, but nobody really kind of capitalized on the actual gamers. If you look at the narrative, a lot of the timelines are usually focused about how to make money. If you look at indie game timelines, they're more focused on devlog, community feedback. Here's my wireframes. What do you guys think? So there's a huge contrasting difference. So if you can find that balance and actually get real gamers to say, hey, blockchain isn't fucking evil. Here's Soul who showed us why this actually works out. I think a sentiment change is what we actually need. And that'll help kind of separate those that were just, farmers and extractors to begin with, and also the real gamers that can actually appreciate it. Because I think if you're a player, you would appreciate that. And as long as Soul's not driving around in his new Lambo from his new high rise in Dubai saying thanks for all the downloads, they're like, okay, here's a trusted source. And Hado had mentioned sort of kind of create that standard, right? We have so many people that do come from the indie and the Web2 space that come in here, and they usually grab VC money. And if you grab VC money from Web3, that usually means you're forced to push some kind of token or some kind of liquidity event to get their money back. And so I think indie devs are kind of forced into a corner where they're like, shit, I really want to create this dope game, but also the suits are putting pressure on me to launch a token I don't really want to fucking do. That pretty much
Totally.
wraps it up, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
That's it. We're shutting it down. That was it. Great. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, that you summed it up. I mean, you pretty much summed up my Web3 gaming existence in the last 3 years. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So, two quick things I want to say. One thing that I want to try to do with DAM, and I've always actually, even early on, was like one of the ideas I had was that, okay, there's going to be this super secret, really, really hard boss. And whenever someone defeats this boss, it gets logged as an event on the blockchain saying this player defeated this boss on this date, right? And then we can have a list of that. And then on top of that, that list would show up in the main hub of the game. And basically there'd be like a little hourglass. And as the sands fall, every time the boss is defeated, a piece of sand would fall. And then once it runs out, then it unlocks this new area. So that way, there's this idea of like everyone's working together to get this thing going. And I was actually inspired by Metal Gear Solid V by that, because they had a secret ending that, like, if all the nukes across all the different worlds get disarmed, you get this nuclear disarmament ending. But the issue was that there wasn't like a database of like, here's all the things, here's all the bases that have it. And also people just hacked the game and figured out a way to like be like, okay, oh yeah, we triggered the event. But like that wouldn't have happened if there was an actual just like objective database, right? And then you can know, okay, the creator can't touch it. The creator can't just be like universally be like, well, I'm the centralized source of power, it's unlocked. I just love the idea that like we can set this thing out into motion, and then it's up to the community to figure it out and also like unlock the pieces of it. So I'm really excited about that. And then, to your point about, collaboration, I think that, to me, I think that in a lot of ways, blockchain is the opposite of evil, because it gives people the power to be able to own the things they want. And I think gets co-opted by bad people and corporations that are just looking for a profit motive. But, in my mind, what would have made blockchain work is, a lot of this promise of early days of like, oh, if you own this asset, you can use this asset across different games, or I get this thing in this one game and I use it in this other game. But the issue is that no one wanted to work together. Everyone wanted to be like, well, I'm going to be the one who's going to get rich, so I'm going to make my thing, and I'm not going to talk to anyone else. And no one worked. So everyone had these like lofty ideals, and then they're like, okay, we're all going to work together. And they all worked, and they were like, I'm going to be super greedy. I'm just going to do my own thing, and no, I'm not going to talk to anyone. And so one of my first games that I put out, Read Only Memories, one of the reasons why it was so successful is that we did all of these, not just cameos, we did like timeline integration with other games. So we did integration with this game called Valhalla. We did this integration with this game called Y2K. We basically worked with like 8 or 9 different games to be like, we're going to put your characters in our world.
You
and
said
I'm going to put
Y2K?
Yeah.
Ooh, I remember that game by Axe Studios or something like that.
Yeah. So what's funny is that the Allensons who made that game were actually one of the original developers on DAM. So
small world.
yeah. But yeah, in working with Y2K and Valhalla and all those things, like it actually increased all of our sales. And like some of the games are more successful than the others, but like it was like, oh well, I really like Y2K or whatever, and be like, who's this character that's in here, and be like, oh, and then you find out what the crossover is, and the things that none of us knew when we made it. Like we kind of had an idea based on momentum, like which games might be more successful or not, but there was no real profit. Like, oh man, like I'm gonna get 10% from this or that. It was like, how can we all lift each other up a little bit? And it feels like there isn't any of that in Web3. There's no spirit of collaboration, and when there is collaboration, it's like, oh, we're all Animoca games, so we're like forced to have to do it with each other. Like, and so it doesn't come off genuine. And so I think that if there was more of that, or just like that indie spirit of like, let's all just like let each other know and our bases know, and like figure out fun, interesting things. They're like, oh, cool. If you played our game, get this cool free skin in this other game. I think that would have also allowed Web3 gaming to be more successful than have it be like 800 silos with 800 chains, 800 wallets.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he's also, again, I feel like mentioning stuff from questions I'm about to ask again. He like reads into the future here. I saw that. And also production has reminded me the same thing too. But I appreciate that answer, and thanks, for really kind of painting the picture, because I think more people need to hear that. But of course, sometimes these words are echoed amongst closed ears, or whatever that saying is, right? It's just like, we're gonna go for money. It seems like the shortcut, but it only takes one. It only takes one. I'm gonna move it on to question number 3, boss number 2. It says, you mentioned creating 85 brand new items through Nation Development that will carry over to the PC game. Was building the mobile version first the right call, or did it delay the game people really wanted? And I think you kind of mentioned, that before, in your previous statement on how that was kind of a build up to the actual PC game.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, like, if I was like truly independently wealthy and I could just make the damn PC game without having to think about anything else, then yeah, it probably slows it down a little bit, because obviously, like, building for a different platform and making it work does take time. But at the same time, a lot of these systems are going to carry over, and to see what works and what's balanced, and getting that analytics of, okay, what are people using and what stacks well, has been really helpful. So, like, even for instance, one of the things that we realized and we're improving with these new versions is like the visual progression of the character, where as you play through the game, you should be visually seeing, oh, you're getting more followers or things around you, or your bullets should be doing more interesting stuff. And in the early versions of the damn mobile game, there wasn't really that. It was a lot of like, you're switching things out, and so you're not really seeing the visual change as you're going through it. And so in doing that testing, you're like, okay, cool, like now we understand how to make that feel like you're always constantly getting stronger as you play through the game. Or making sure that the early balancing feels fair, where when you start the game, you're not like getting ganked in the first few worlds, like first few rooms. So I think that all that has been really helpful, where I'd say almost all that's going to carry over. I think that the stuff that we still need to figure out now is like making sure that the co-op side of it for the PC version feels good. How often do we want to allow people to heal each other, revive each other? How do we make it fair? How do we make sure that like a boss is fair if you have one person versus 2 people playing it? And I think that when you look at like a game like Binding of Isaac, where it wasn't made for co-op and then they add co-op in later, some of it is imbalanced. And I think that the nice thing about us doing it like this is we've made a game that's made for single player, and we've seen how these things work, and then we can make the PC version with co-op as a core tenet from the beginning. But also bring over these knowledge things, where a lot of making a game of a roguelike like this is going to be in like the iteration. And so a lot of that iteration's already been done, both from the early versions of the game as well as the Damnation mobile game. So in a lot of ways, and also obviously we're going to be able to reuse a lot, the enemy sprites and things. We're going to add in more enemies and more weapons and things like that. But we already have, 50, 60, 70% of the art assets needed. We already have, 60% of like the game design needed. And we have a team that's already been invested in this world and kind of understands the vision and works well together, where, something like this could take years, might only take, a year now or 10 months. So, as we move forward into the new year, obviously making sure we have the budget for it and make sure that we, have the team and a good scope is important. But I'd say that the answer is, in an ideal world, if we were just working on the PC version, it would probably come out sooner. But I'm glad that we did it in this way, because we do almost all the knowledge that we get is going to transfer over in some way.
I love it. Like I said, every little piece of development kind of helps build towards the macro vision of what you really wanted for the game. So I'm glad that all came together. I'm glad everybody was able to hear that. And I hope that everybody was able to go and cast your votes. So folks, make sure you go and vote. That was going to wrap it up for boss number 2. Great job by Soul. We're going to hop into a few more rounds, a little bit lighter on the next round for the lightning round, and then we're going to get into the final boss. I'll make sure I pass over the mic to my big host, Mr. Hotto here. Full throttle Hotto.
Not that big. Quick little 20-second ad break, and we'll be right back. She got that squeeze, she got that wet. I'm on them skis.
Slurpee. Got that juice.
Yeah, we gotta pay off Slurpee someday for real. I really want to drink one of those things and see how they taste. We're gonna hop into the Slurpee voltage round. Just a quick refresher, if you guys don't know what this is the rapid fire portion of the show. Quick one-liner responses to these questions. 5 from me and 5 from Ramen. Play the intro music.
It's time for the Slurpee Voltage Round, sponsored by Slurpee Voltage. Feel the energy.
Shout out to production for those videos. Also, these are not graded at all, so there's no audience portion of this. This is just straight up your hosts and the guest. The first question says, better weapon, holy water, squirt gun, or household items?
I'd say the squirt gun, just because there's so many ways to evolve it and change it around. I'd say that like the household items are very like kind of standardized, and so those are really fun and interesting, but the squirt gun allows you to just continue to evolve and do so many different things.
Gotcha. Next one says, which 90s horror movie best describes your development journey? What the fuck? You could just use any horror movie. We don't have to stay with 90s if it's too difficult.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Scream series. I don't know if that necessarily like fits, but I think the Scream is good. Where it's like it's scary, it's funny, it's meta, all at the same time.
Hell yeah, love it. Most frustrating demon enemy you've designed so far?
I'd say the vampunks, because they latch onto you and then they like are supposed to suck your blood and then they like pull away. But the thing is that when they do that, they like kind of lock you in position, and then it's like trying to figure out should the enemy bullets will be allowed to hit you, and then when you get attached, or since you're not allowed to move, you take away control from the player, and that can be frustrating. And so getting that to feel good, and also like after they bite you, they turn into a bat and fly away. For whatever reason, the logic of that on every version has been different, and it's never really always felt right. So the vampunks, I'd say.
All right. Next question says, if you could add any 90s pop culture reference to the game, what would it be?
I was a big fan of the Nickelodeon GAC growing up. And I remember buying that and like bringing it outside and getting like pebbles and gross stuff in it, and like the fun, orange GAC getting all disgusting. And it was so much fun to play with. So I'd love to figure out some sort of oozy GAC like substance.
GAC mechanics. Okay, got it. Last one from my side. Worst moment during the IP legal battle that you can laugh about now?
After we shot the commercial, so we did the commercial for the Kickstarter, and it was basically I had to drive down with a giant Sprinter van down to LA, and I got this like giant old TV and all these props, and I almost got in a car crash driving down all night for it. And it was super fun shooting the commercial, and we can't even use it because there was kids in it that we filmed, and there was like issues with like, oh, can we keep using this footage, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But after we finished the thing, I went to the liquor store across the street, and I got like a really, really expensive bottle of whiskey. And I was like, all right, cool. Here's like, okay, cool. We did it. And then I like pulled out the bag, and it like fell out and smashed everywhere.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, there's like $300 on the drain.
Damn.
I had to run back and go buy another bottle of whiskey. And it was just kind of like silly. And yeah, I thought that was kind of like, okay, well, but it was so much fun shooting that commercial and making like this. I don't know if you got a chance to see the original Kickstarter video, but super fun.
All right, Ramen, you got the next 5.
All right, these are going to be some good ones over here. Favorite Zombies Ate My Neighbors level from the original?
Oh, I mean, the classic is the giant baby one, right? Where the baby's like stomping around. You got to try to like fight it. And I think there's a great visual to that, but it's kind of unfair. It's very like arcadey, because just constantly getting smashed on. There is like a football level though, where you like go onto a football field. Yeah. So that one's really fun. There's also like the Day of the Tentacle level.
Chainsaw Maze.
Yeah, the Chainsaw Maze. Chainsaw Maze is great for sure. I mean, I think that one's like the classic, right? So yeah, I mean, dude, it was just such a fun game. I have so many good memories of that game.
All right, all great answers. All great answers. All right, next question: April or Joey? Who's the better character to play as?
Well, so obviously with Damnation, you just have April, but basically Joey has kind of like a shoulder tackle move in the PC version, which allows you to kind of charge through enemies, while April has more of like a dodge mechanic. And so the charge mechanic is fun because you kind of like build up steam, and then your character kind of like you lose control and just go like slam through, kind of like a Wario. So that's really fun, and like it's caused like fun effects when you do it. So I'd say he's more fun. And plus, as a boy, I like playing as boy characters. Yeah, and I think he's just a little bit more kind of like a dumb little like high school kid, which is me as a high school kid. So yeah, I'd say Joey.
Nice.
We got a bronze over brains kind of guy over here, huh? It's like, let's go, Joey. Let's go. All right, great answers. Oh, this one's going to be fun. Which team member is the ultimate co-op partner in testing?
I'd probably have to say my friend Ranger. He used to go by Funk. Now he goes by Ranger, and actually brought him in originally into our crew on Toe Jam and Earl. And yeah, just being able to like have someone who's like a super homie, like he's the guy who like I'm an old guy. When we play Fortnite or whatever, he's carrying the team. He's like the real gamer. I'm kind of just like my fast Twitch isn't there anymore. So yeah, and he's always like Ranger is kind of our heart and soul of this game, to be honest, because like I'm so in the I gotta manage people, I gotta figure out this, I gotta do fun things like interviews, and he's just like focused in on like how do we make this game fun and interesting and whatever. So definitely my good man, Mr. Ranger.
Let's go. Big shout out, Ranger. Let's go. I like it. We could do a DJ name too. We could combine and make Funky Ranger. DJ Funky Ranger. All right. We got two more for the lightning round over here. Slurpee round. Best Saturday morning cartoon that inspired Dam's tone.
Well, I mean, the best Saturday morning cartoon is Digimon, but for the tone of this, trying to think of what exactly would be the one. I mean, there was I don't know if there's an exact one, but I just remember like that whole WB Kids WB block of stuff. There was like some weird like cartoon where there's like a guy who could like stop time, like stream something. There's obviously like Reboot is really fun, because you're going to like different gaming worlds. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just I like all that stuff, Batman Beyond and Pokemon and all that stuff. But I'm trying to think of like what really like I think that the cartoons, I can't really think of like I think the vibe is like hanging out with your friends early morning, having cereal, watching cartoons and stuff. But like I'd say that it's more inspired by like stuff like Goonies or Monster Squad or things like that, where those more movies and cartoons.
Love that. We're going to bring it down to our very last one for the Slurpee round. Complete this. Reacquiring the damn IP and bringing it back taught us ...
I think that doing that taught me that while sticking to the original it taught me how much I cared about it. It taught me that, I had plenty of reason to just move on and not spend the money and just like find a different thing. And even just in general, like this has kind of been my experience with making indie games is like, there's so many times I could have just been like, okay, I have all these skills and I could be taking this to a place where I can be making real money or doing other stuff. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Making Damn is what I want to do. Like, this is the song that's in my heart and I want to sing it. Cause like, it's just, I feel it. And I know that like what I've have in my mind hasn't even really been fully fleshed out. And so I think it's taught me that like, that chasing what is in your heart is worth it, even if it's not necessarily the thing that's going to make you a bunch of money. Because to me, I wake up every day and I'm like so excited. Like everything, I love talking about it. I love working on it. You know, the only thing I don't like is having to figure out the admin stuff and like how am I going to pay for it? How am I going to do whatever? But this is my I live the dream, and I love doing that, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. So I think that being able to see it through has been worth every penny and all the tears of and the fight, because it's something that to me is like I've learned is in my core is deeply important to me.
Folks, he says, follow your passion. Let's go. Your passion will lead to glory and goodness. It doesn't have to be money, but I think just being able to fulfill that, I think it's got to feel great to be able to see this thing through. Those are some great answers. And then we're going to be shuffling on to the very last boss, the hardest boss of them all, but so far so good. Let's see if the community has come through to cast their votes. Hato, what'd you think?
Of course they have, man. They've been pulling up. Let's get into this last boss here and, see what's going to go down. This is going to be the most difficult boss of the evening. It says on my question sheet, 100% difficulty. So we'll see how this goes.
Uh-oh.
Sol, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right, question number 1. And by the way, me and Rama are going to alternate on this round. Question number 1 says, the twin stick roguelite shooter space has exploded with hits like Hades, Brotato, and Vampire Survivors. What makes Demons Ate My Neighbors different enough to stand out when it launches?
Well, it's Brotato because it's about a potato. Also, I'm glad that Krampus is the last one. I'm a big fan of Krampus. Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of to my original kind of things was like, I think that Brotato, Enter the Gungeon, Binding of Isaac, Hades, none of them are really focused around co-op mechanics, which is very difficult, and I think that I've learned that in doing Toe Jam and Earl, to make a co-op game be balanced is really difficult. And I don't know if it's possible to make it as balanced as a single player game where you have full control. But I think that it also, that chaos and the fun of it is what makes a co-op experience great. And so I think that's going to be the difference between what we're making and those games, is that, I think that the single player twin stick roguelike has been done to death and done very, very, very well already. But co-op, and have it be more silly, and while still also being, challenging, and you have to be thoughtful, but also fun, and something where you can just sit down with your friend or do a co-op session with someone like a friend online. I feel like that hasn't really been achieved super well yet. I think that we've seen some fun friend slop type games, whether it be like Lethal Company or Peak or things like that. But those aren't really like roguelikes. They're kind of just like silly, kind of like, games. So I'm hoping that we can find that happy medium of something that you can play with your friends and just hop in and have fun and socialize and get your social time in. But also, it's no joke. Like if you play Damnation, it's not like a game where you can just be like, it's not, we're not trying to make Dark Souls, but I don't want it to be something that you just coast through. I want it to be something that's challenging, and you actually need to focus and be thoughtful about the decisions you make.
And that market is vast in terms of like players wanting to play games like that. So I think that whenever they're presented that challenge, you always have gamers that want to beat that challenge. They want to meet that challenge and face it head on. So I do like that you mentioned those qualities about the game. Let's move on to Ramen for the next question.
All right, I get stuck with all these zombie questions, but I'm sure there's going to be no complaints here. Zombies Ate My Neighbors had a cult following, but it's not mainstream like Mario or Sonic. Are you banking on nostalgia from a relatively niche audience, or do you believe the concept has broader appeal?
I think both. I think that, anything that is like Castlevania or Mario or Sonic, people have already made so many fan games and recreations and like spiritual successors that there's already a bunch of those things out there, and part of the reason why, like from a business person's perspective of why I chose Zombies Ate My Neighbors was like, of all the things that hasn't seen a recreation, I don't think anyone has really tried to make this, in the modern day. And to me, I think that's a shame that even if it's not mainstream, I think the people who grow up with it, they would eagerly consume if there was something that was similar to it. And that's something that I learned with doing Toe Jam and Earl. Like, even though Toe Jam and Earl was semi-popular back in the days, it doesn't have a huge fan base, but the people who love it were like, oh my God, finally another Toe Jam and Earl game. And even if it wasn't the best game ever, they just were so excited to get something in that space. And that did drive a lot of sales. So, I think that my hope is to get both the people who are just like, finally another thing that's in this vibe and in this world, and they're going to buy it just because of that. That's A. And then, but B is that I hope that they come and play it and keep coming back because they're like, oh, this is actually a good game. The same thing happened with Read Only Memories, when in terms of like being like, we went after the Snatcher audience, we got back, the original voice actor for Gillian Seed from Snatcher, and we did all these things that like we knew that we were going to get these like crazy Snatcher people to be like, final, like, oh, there's another game that's in this vibe, but ultimately that's only going to account for like maybe 10-20% of the audience. The rest of it has to be people who are like, who may not have any knowledge of Snatcher or Zombies Ate My Neighbors, who are just coming in being like, oh, this is visually interesting, or this is like an interesting, like gameplay thing. As I shared around Damnation in different indie game groups and stuff, most people don't understand the references. Or if I say it's Zombies Ate My Neighbors, people go, oh, I've never heard of that, which is sad. But then, it really depends, right? Like when I go into some certain retro game groups, they're like, that's all they care about, and they get really excited about it, and they'll actually be against a lot of maybe the new modernization things that we do. And so it's finding that happy medium of like being like, how do we make sure that it feels like that, for the retro heads, while also like modernizing it, where there's a certain reason why game design has evolved in the last 30 years, and making sure that we're keeping up with that, so it's not like frustrating or a quarter eater in design.
No, that's a great answer. I think you're trying to, capitalize on the following that you already have. And I think through them, they're also going to help expand the message because they can showcase or stream or create video or whatever content around that too. I'm going to pass it back to Hato.
All right, next question here on the list says, most indie games don't publicly share that their mobile game is funding their real game. That is usually kept quiet. Was being transparent about this strategy risky, and has it affected how players perceive Damnation?
It's a little risky. I mean, sometimes we'll get bad reviews on like the mobile game or whatever, being like, this isn't what I wanted. I wanted the PC version. This isn't, like, why are you making this? And, I understand, like, for most people, especially like just consumers, they're not like, they don't really care. They just want the product, right? And it can be a little upsetting, but like, ultimately we just try to explain to people, hey, this is why we did it this way. And I think that ultimately this isn't like big money, like, again, like I raised $3 million at like a 30 million valuation for this other thing, and I've been involved in other projects that have been relatively big projects where there's a lot of money on the line, and being secretive or keeping a rolling momentum of the narrative is really important. Like, this is like, we're making fun video games, and like I don't really feel like there needs to be any need to be secretive or to lie about anything, like I feel like it's just like, I'd rather just be open and honest about it. And if people can't like vibe with it, like, cool, like there's the door, if you don't, whatever, like, not to be mean. But I just feel like it's, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old, but I'm like, I just don't want to play any games with people. Like, I want the game to be making the game, and just be open and forthright. And, it's not like we're not doing anything that's like unethical. It's like, so I just want to be open, about it, and just try to be transparent, and hopefully that will, be for people, be like a fresh air.
Love that answer. Let's move on to we got 2 more questions on the list here. So go ahead and take the second to last question, Rami.
All right. Local co-op is the core feature, but gaming has shifted heavily towards online multiplayer. Is releasing a primarily local co-op game in 2025 a gamble, or do you think there's an untapped demand?
It's like the original vision of it was to be just local and to not do the online because of how complicated that can be. And I saw in doing that for Toe Jam and Earl what some of the issues were with net code. And I think that the reality is that the game needs to have net code to be a competitor. So I think that we are going to like have online play be a core part of it. And that's something that we're going to have to, explore technically what that looks like. I'm not that worried about making it work and work well for PC. The technology has gotten a lot better, and basically you can make it run really well and, understand where the frame issues are and blah, blah, blah. The issues are more with like console like play. Like consoles have some weird requirements for making the online play work and work properly. And I think that that's probably going to be a bigger thing that we're going to have to explore as we get to that point of like, okay, when we start doing the console ports for it, what are the costs of making it work with net code, and do we need to bring in additional developers, and what's that cost? But I think to your original question, it's like I think that there is absolutely a market for local couch co-op, 100%. But I think if we only had local couch co-op, I think the game would kind of be DOA. I think that, for most kids growing up, they have, friends from all around the world. People are generally playing games with people, all around. And the idea of people just kind of like gathering around a couch and playing one game is like, I think that idea is kind of faded a little bit, as we've moved on from having these like, oh, we have one Super Nintendo with 2 controllers and let's play, to now everyone has a PC. So I'd love to live in a world where we all could just sit around a couch and look at the same screen together and play, but I think that we're going to be having to make it be focused around not just local, but online as well.
I'm glad to hear it. Because I love both. I love local multiplayer and I love multiplayer. I'm going to shout out Shaga really quick for letting that happen, because they do let you kind of do that. So that's kind of cool. But I'm going to pass the mic back to Hado. We're almost done. Boss number 3. Let's go.
That's a good point, actually. You just brought up a great point. That is a workaround for people that don't want to deal with that as a temporary fix, or maybe that's something that people can just tap into, where if it's a local co-op game, you could just use something like Shaga to like make it online, so to speak. Not a bad point.
Right.
Not
Decentralized peer-to-peer. It is a decentralized, it's a DPIN thing. So it kind of stays in that realm. And that's one of the reasons I like using it, because I can play local co-op with people online and we can kind of share the same instance and play. So really cool stuff. All right, Hado.
Sure. Yes, this is the last question of today's show. Get your votes in now. If you haven't done so already, the poll is live. The final poll of today's show. The last question says, this project has been in development for years, survived COVID, lost source code, and required legal battles to reclaim that IP. At what point did you consider walking away versus keeping what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that multiple times I've been like, oh, does this make sense to keep pushing forward on? And at the end of the day, though, this is sort of the journey is the fun part of making this, like whether it be like everything has been a learning experience. One of the things that happened, as you didn't even mention about, was like, earlier in this year, so my username on Discord is just Sol, SOL. And I got that because I was like one of the first 50 people on Discord, or 100, whatever. And so because obviously Solana became like a real thing, people try to hack me all the time. Eventually someone got in and they like destroyed like the original damn server, and I lost like thousands of people in that server. And I was like, oh, because we lost that community, and they have to build it over again. And then issues with like the original team because of the Kickstarter not going off, and then COVID, and then wanting to do stuff with blockchain, and people being like, oh, if you do blockchain, I can't work on this game because that's going to ruin my career for some reason because it's the stigma of it. All these different things. It was like, but I think that all that comes with like the fact that like we're constantly thinking about how can we do new things and interesting things, and like when you're turning over new rocks and trying new things, there's always going to be drama and pain and different issues that come up, and that's the gaming reality of things, you know. And ultimately, like when you look at something like, think about, not Marathon, what was that game? I don't even remember, but what was that game that came out and was like gone in a week and like cost like $300 million?
Conquered?
Yeah, Conquered, right? Like think about all the people who worked on that game for years and years and spent so many sleepless nights and all this energy and fights over, oh, should we have this character do this or should this weapon do this? And the game was out for like a week and then they shut it down. They're like, it's never coming back, right? And it's like, I think that like there's so, you know, and I think for those people, they have to think about like, wow, do I really want to be doing this in my life? Do I really want to be making games knowing that like this all could be for nothing? And I think that does, you know, test your mettle and your resolve of being like, does this matter? Is this the stuff I want to do? And you have to find joy in the journey, because, you know, for a lot of people who make games, they don't know if this stuff is ever going to come out. They don't know if it's going to get canceled. They don't know if they make it and it's going to be a complete bomb right off the gate. You know, if it's going to get forgotten right away. And, you know, obviously there's tons of examples of glory, right? Where you make Hades or Undertale and be like, wow, everyone saw my vision and it's so exciting and everything, all the hard work and sweat paid off. But that's really rare. To the most part, you make these games because it's like writing a novel, right? You can't know, or you can't expect anyone to play it or care about it. You have to make it because you feel it in your heart and you need to see it through because it's just like in you. And so I'd say that like, yeah, like many times I've thought about like, I look at my finances, or I look at like, oh, I had to pay all this money for this one guy to do this one thing, and we couldn't even use that feature. We had to scrap, you know, all the money that we've had to throw away, or this or that. And I go like, man, is this really what I want to be doing with my life? And then I go, yeah, this is what I want to be doing. Like, I love doing this, and I love making these things, and I love the experience. And for the most part, even when it's really painful, I go, okay, what did I do wrong there? Okay, I didn't have this contract in place with this person. I just assumed everything was cool until it wasn't cool, and I go, oh, that's why I need a prenup, basically. Or, you know, why did this thing fail? It's like, oh, because I spent all this money getting all this character designs, not understanding we need to figure out what the locomotion of the characters look like first before doing that. And that can be painful, like being like, oh, I wasted all that money or time. But, you know, it's like how Gus Fring kind of, to paraphrase what he said, it's like, or I don't know exactly what he said, but basically like, you know, if you make a mistake the first time, it's not a mistake, it's a learning lesson. Like, don't make that same mistake again, right? Then you're an idiot. But but the first time is like, there's no shame in making a mistake. In my mind, it's like, it's all learning lessons. So yeah, it's been at times it's been painful, but for the most part, I wouldn't change it. You know, it's been really fun and interesting and great learning lesson. And I'm just so happy that I get to stay in the game. You know, like I think for a lot of people who make games, when they don't have the room to make mistakes, or when they do, they go, oh, I'm out of money, I have to stop. And thankfully, I've been lucky enough to be doing this for almost 20 years and still being able to do it. And I meet so many people who are like, I wish I could make games. I want to be making games. And I have to kind of warn them and be like, it's a really painful experience. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. It's not all sunshine, but it is, at least for me, you know, it is worth it. And so to answer your question, whenever I think I want to give up, I truly consider it in my mind. I go, this would be easy to shut down. And I go, I don't want that. I know. And it continues to make me answer that question of if I want it. And I say, yes, I do want it.
You know, you mentioned like at the end there, I was starting to like think about that's literally what's happening in crypto, where it's like, oh, I want to be in crypto, or I want to buy crypto because they see all these big gains or whatever. You're like, well, it's not going to be just something you hop in. It's a lifestyle. Like, you got to understand what's going on, the charts, the news, whatever. It's the same thing with building a game. Gamers, love to play games, and they're like, oh, I want to build one, and they maybe have experience with a level editor or something. They're like, oh, okay, this is easy. But like building a game from the ground up is very daunting, right? And it takes a lot of time. And then, like you said, you could put all that money, time, and effort, and it could be DOA. And that's the fear of like, am I doing the right thing? So I think like it's good to understand the realities of the situation as you're building a product, so to speak, because you got to understand like, is it worth it or not, right? And you got to like weigh the pros and cons. But at the end of the day, ultimately, what you're trying to do is make something that people want to play, right? That's the ultimate goal. So I think I understand that answer, and I think it's spot on. That is going to conclude all the questions. So we're going to go into the results portion of the show. And we've got a bit of an interesting results today. So let's find out how Soul did against all three of the bosses. On your ears.
And
So like the good news is actually, you know what? Let's go boss by boss. On boss number 1, Soul, you scored 100 out of 100.
Whoa.
Boss number 2, you scored 100 out of 100 again.
Wow.
So it just comes down to boss number 3.
Krampus.
You need to have an 85 or above. Yes, Krampus. So I don't know how this keeps happening and the universe just hates me, but I'll let you know what your score was. It was 67.
Oh, okay. I'll take that. 6-7.
Another 6-7. I don't know how it keeps happening.
there's no way.
When you tally it up together, your score is 89, which means you won.
Wow! You beat all the bosses! Congratulations!
Ramen, tell Soul and the audience what Soul won today.
You've won 1 million impressions on the timeline. No, I'm just kidding. No. What we have is I thought it would sound cool, like $1 million.
Don't guarantee him shit that we can't guarantee, bro. What the hell?
Yeah, that's recorded. I'm just
yeah. Ramen owes you 1 million views, by the way. But go ahead, Ramen.
I quit. I hold no liability for this show.
I quit.
No, it is good. Yeah. Well, much like we had for our audience earlier with that really, no, I'm not paying for it. Stop commenting. I am
yes,
brokey. You've also won a really cool award, much like we were giving to our audience members with the free version of that really cool cartridge. We also have something for everyone that comes on our show and defeats all 3 bosses. And again, this will be for the mysterious Catalyst ecosystem, which we will be launching here in the future. So everybody that's got a cartridge, whether you beat the bosses or whether you pulled up and cast your vote in the community, everybody gets a little something. No promises of money, but there will be cool stuff in the ecosystem because they'll make me pay for it if I promise money. But yes, congratulations. Those were all amazing answers. It was invigorating to see your passion for gaming, your industry experience. And I mean, I'm kind of biased, right? The nostalgia for 90s gaming, Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, Sega CD, you name it, probably played it. So I absolutely love it. Hotto's like, this boomer.
Well, I have a question for you guys. I'd love to know, like, can you tell me more about these cartridges? You said it's a mysterious ecosystem, so maybe you can't say too much, but I love the visuals. Do you have any kind of visions, even if it's just a sneak peek at what you want to do there?
Well, we're not allowed to do that, but maybe I don't know, maybe we'll be talking in the future. Not maybe,
okay.
We will on what that means for you, Soul. But we're not at liberty to discuss that, unfortunately.
Okay. Well,
I don't want to.
Well, can I give you guys a quick 2 truths and a lie, and you can tell me which one you think is before we go?
Okay.
All right. So I got 2 truths and a lie, and you tell me which one you think is a lie. So 1 is that I won a game show where I am America's worst driver. 2 was that I was arrested in Brazil during Gamescom, and I spent a night in Brazilian jail. And 3 is that I was in the front row of WrestleMania at the behest of John Cena, and I was kicked out.
Oh, these are all really good.
Oh wow, I've never. Yeah, that's gonna make me think.
I'm gonna say the last one was true, and the other two were the lie. Go ahead, Ramen.
It's two truths.
Two truths.
Yeah, listen.
Okay.
I'm gonna go for Gamescom Brazil. Anything can go down there. So
Yeah.
I'm going Gamescom Brazil. I want to give you some credit for your driving. I don't think you're that bad of a driver. I could be wrong, but I'm going. My answer is Brazil.
All right, I'm going last two as well. Yeah, the two Ramen. So the last two.
All right. Well, you can actually go on YouTube and look up America's Worst Driver. And I actually was the winner of that show. And by winner, I mean I was the loser, where they destroyed not only my personal car, but they also destroyed a brand new car they were going to give me. And you can watch me cry on national TV. So that was cool. And I was the person I bought. WWE did a one NFT thing where in buying it, you got front row tickets to WrestleMania. And I did that, and you can actually on my YouTube, you can see John Cena. I basically was forced at gunpoint to make a video for me, as well as I had to go front row. And I got pretty sauced there, and I decided to bust out my Weedle, and they decided to kick me out. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to the spa. But thankfully, at Gamescom, I did get food poisoning, and I got lost in a barrio, and that was really scary. But I did not get arrested, thankfully. So that was the lie.
Wow.
I was gonna not hoping. I was like, yeah, and if you could see me on Locked Up Abroad, and be like, here's my story. I'd be like, that would have been a crazy, Brazilian story over there. So that's actually wild. You know what? That's a great. We should do some more of these. I encourage more guests to give us two truths and a lie. That was actually kind of funny. Like reversed. You reversed the show on us. I actually enjoyed that very much. It's
for sure.
Side. But so thank you so much for taking the time today to talk about the game, the ecosystem, your passions, and everything else in there. I looked up a ticket. It's $800 for me to fly to Kobe, Japan. So I need to get in touch with my roots. I'm half Japanese and never been there. It's a sad story. So I'm gonna have to make that trip one day.
Oh yeah,
man. They got great ramen there.
Oh, don't.
Oh, don't tell them that.
I know. That's listen, lifelong journey. I want to try ramen and barbecue in every single place that I ever visit. I've done it pretty much domestically here in the U.S. I've never got to do it abroad. So that's
bro. You're gonna make a show called Ramen Eats Ramen or something. Like
I probably would.
Ramen for ramen.
Ramen for ramen.
VTube while I'm live, people would have to look at my face. Ugh, but that's all right. Maybe I will.
Just put it in post, and then just put the ramen head over every interaction that you see with your face. There you go.
It's like, look at my expression. It's delicious.
Guys, this is going to wrap up today's episode. Join us next week. We have another guest. I think we're fully booked for this month. Wait, there's only there's actually two more Tuesdays in December. Sick.
Yeah,
so
we
we're
got
booked for the next 2 weeks. So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Thanks, Hado. Thanks, Ramen.
Thank you.
Later.